Hey guys, this is God of Politics. Welcome back to a brand new video. But before we get started with this video, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Also join the Discord that is linked down in the description. But in today's video, I'm going to be doing my updated Battleground Map for the month of August. This video is being uploaded on August 1st. I will be doing these videos twice a month now. I've been doing these Battleground Maps once a month now. I'll be doing it twice a month. We have more polling data, we have more fundraising numbers, all, a much more data than we used to have. So I'll be updating these maps, twice a month rather than once a month. But today's video is about the Battleground Map, the state of the race as of now. If the election were held today, how would these states go? So I'm going to be going through, each one of these states, seeing how I think they're going to go and who ends up being the winner of this, hotly contested election that looks to be, at least for now, in favor of Joe Biden. Now, first of all, as always, I'll start off with the safe Republican states, and those include Montana, Idaho, Wyoming, Utah, Alaska, North Dakota, South Dakota, all of Nebraska except for the 2nd District, Kansas, Oklahoma, Missouri, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, West Virginia, Indiana, and then that is going to be it. So that puts Donald Trump at 116 safe electoral votes, and then for Joe Biden, I do believe he will win Washington, Oregon, California, as well as Colorado and New Mexico. These states are states, Colorado went by 5.5 in 2016, New Mexico went by around 8. These are states in which you have to remember Joe Biden in the national environment in these national polls is up by around 8 to 9 percentage points. So if you're basing that off the fact that that is 6 to 7 points more than what Hillary Clinton won by in 2016, that's going to have some translating effect onto some of these battleground states, and it will be no different in states like these where the states are trending towards the Democratic column. And as well as the state of Illinois, Hawaii, Virginia is another state that's been trending towards the Democrats, New York, as well as Maine's 1st District, Vermont, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Delaware, or New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, D.C. So that puts Joe Biden at a whopping 210 safe electoral votes, safe meaning going by more than 10 percentage points. And then for Donald Trump, I do believe he will win at this point 116 safe electoral votes. Now, as for these likely margin states, first, I do believe South Carolina will go by a likely margin. If you look at the state of South Carolina, it went by 13 points in 2016. Joe Biden is up by a lot more now than what Hillary Clinton was up by. That is, again, going to have a translating effect on these states, on these battleground states. South Carolina is not necessarily a battleground state, but it is, at this point going to be closer. The Senate race might be a little bit closer than this. As of now, I do think South Carolina will go by around 8 percentage points to Donald Trump there. And that's actually all of the likely margin states for Donald Trump there. The likely margin states for the Democrats, first, I believe it starts off with the state of Nevada. Nevada is a state with a heavy Latino population, and most of the state is run by Clark County, which is down in the south. And Joe Biden is doing a lot better with Latino voters over time. He used to be a lot worse than he is now. And Joe Biden is also improving with younger voters, and all that combined with a liberally skewed electorate. As long as they turn out, Joe Biden's going to be able to win this state comfortably, more than what Hillary Clinton won it by, as well as the old voters that Joe Biden is siphoning off, which we'll talk a little bit more about later. As well as the state of Minnesota, I do believe Minnesota will go by a likely margin at this point. We've had some recent polls coming out showing Joe Biden winning quite comfortably. We had a Trafalgar poll coming out showing that Biden was winning by around 5 percentage points, which is actually quite a good poll for Joe Biden because Trafalgar does overestimate Republicans in every single poll they've ever done. So at this point, you have to at least assume that Joe Biden is doing well in the state of Minnesota, and also, the fact that Donald Trump's performance and response to the protest was, not rated very highly, things like that, and he's going to have a bad effect on the state of Minnesota where those protests started. Another state that I do believe is going to go by a likely margin is the state of Michigan. Michigan is a state we actually had a recent development. Donald Trump pulled his ads out of the state of Michigan. It kind of seems as if he's giving up on the state of Michigan because, we have seen some polling data showing that Joe Biden's actually been winning by double digits in the state, and I don't necessarily think Joe Biden is going to win by double digits, but he is doing very well right now. It's, kind of the story of the 2012 Indiana, in which, Barack Obama barely won in Indiana in 2008, lost it by quite a large margin in 2012. You could see a similar story this time where Joe Biden and the Democrats with Hillary Clinton barely lost Michigan in 2016, and now Joe Biden is going to win it by quite a comfortable margin. That's a scenario that we could easily see. And as of right now, I do believe that it would be a likely margin state, and it's pretty likely to go to the Democrats. The next is the state of Pennsylvania, which, we can see the Democrats are already at 262 here. Pennsylvania is a state where Joe Biden doesn't have a lot of connections. He was nicknamed and the third senator from this state. He lives near Pennsylvania, and he does have some of that working class appeal. He was born here. He's doing very well in the polls. Again, Trafalgar having Joe Biden up by 5 percentage points in this state is a bad sign for Donald Trump, given the fact that they always overestimate Republicans. And you also have to look at the fact that, Joe Biden did very well in primary turnout. Here he's doing well in virtually all the polls, and he has connections, and all that combined is giving Donald Trump, a hard time at doing very well in a state that he actually won in 2016. The next state I do believe would go by likely margin is the state of New Hampshire. New Hampshire is a state where we actually had a recent poll coming out recently showing that Joe Biden was winning by 13, and I don't believe he'll win by 13, but I do believe he'll maybe win by around 7 to 8 percentage points, something like that. New Hampshire is a state with a lot of whiter voters. It's a very white state. It has some older voters as well, which does help Joe Biden in this scenario because he's siphoning off a lot of those older voters. And there's going to be a lot of ticket splitting too. You have Chris Sununu as the governor, you have Jeanne Shaheen as the senator, and you have the presidential race. All that combined, I do believe, is going to give Joe Biden the advantage when it comes down to the state of New Hampshire. And while he had struggles there in the primary, I don't think he's going to have those same struggles in the general election like Hillary Clinton did. And then the final likely margin state is Maine at large, which I do believe will go by likely margin. If you look at 2016, Maine at large went by a lean margin by around 3 percentage points. I do believe it's going to go by substantially more this time, maybe by around 8 to 9 percentage points. That was a huge trend that made it go by 3 percentage points. And also the fact, you have more enthusiasm amongst Democrats to get Susan Collins out. It's going to increase turnout in this area. Again, Joe Biden's doing very well with whiter voters. He's not doing as well with minorities as a normal Democrat would, but he's doing better with whiter voters and older voters, which is going to help him in Maine, and especially Maine at large, giving it to him by a likely margin. I do think getting into these lean margin states, first I'll start off with the state of Iowa. Iowa is the state that went by almost a safe margin in 2016. Iowa went by around 9 percentage points to Donald Trump. And while I don't think it's going to go be near that at all, I do believe that Donald Trump will still be able to win it by around 3 percentage points at this point. It is a very rural state, but Joe Biden has made a lot of inroads in those older voters again because of this virus thing that has, turned a lot of those voters away from Donald Trump. And we had those recent GDP numbers coming out, which at this point would hurt Donald Trump as well. So that is putting that at a lean Donald Trump state for now. But, that is a bad sign for Donald Trump given the fact that it's lean, even though he does get awarded those 6 electoral votes, along with Ohio, which used to be, the bellwether. Whoever wins this state is going to win the election, at least for Republicans. Republicans have never won without this state, and I do believe they're going to win this state, but they're not necessarily going to win the election. And if we look at the polls right now, Joe Biden is actually leading in the polls in Ohio. But if we look at 2016, polls did overestimate Democrats by a lot. And I hesitate to say that it'll be any different this time. The polls are looking like they are favoring Joe Biden a little bit too much in some of these states. And while I do think that Joe Biden's going to fare a lot better than Hillary Clinton did, I still believe he's going to lose it by a lean margin there. And that is all the lean margin states. As actually finally is Maine's 2nd district. Maine's 2nd district is a very rural area that Donald Trump did very well in, but Joe Biden can make some gains in these in this district compared to what he made compared to what Hillary Clinton got in 2016. We haven't had much polling data so far, but for now at least I'll put that at a lean margin there. And then for the Democrats, the lean margin states, first the lean margin states that push them over the top is the state of Arizona. I do believe Joe Biden will win the state of Arizona, and now at this point by a lean margin. Arizona is a state that's trended towards the Democrats, quite a lot recently. Maricopa County, that area, those suburban areas, as well as the influence of Latino voters, has been helping Democrats for quite a while to make this state a lot closer. And I do believe that, at least for now, this state is the lean margin state. It could get closer. It's going to be a very important state to show the future of these parties in general, as well as, the outcome of this election. But I do believe, at least for now, this will be a lean Democrat state, as well as the state of Florida. Florida, some people might be surprised by this, but the polling data has just been so overwhelmingly good for Joe Biden. It's hard to bet against him doing very well in the state. The polling data shows Joe Biden up by 7, so really putting it at a lean margin is not that out there. I'd expect him to win by around 3 percentage points at this point. Usually Florida doesn't trend as much with the national environment, but the losses that Donald Trump is having amongst older voters are very much hurting him, and I do believe that at least at this point, at least, he would be losing Florida by a lean margin there. And then Wisconsin, I do believe, also would go by a lean margin. Wisconsin is a state, in which it, is, more Republican, I would say, than, some of these other states here, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Minnesota. That doesn't mean it's going to go to the Republicans this time, but I do believe at least in the future this is going to come more Republican. But Democrats can make gains in some of these Milwaukee suburbs, Kenosha County, Racine County, that Madison area with those younger voters too. And I do believe, the polling data has been very good for them. And while the polling data was bad in 2016, there's less undecided voters this time. Joe Biden's doing better in the polls this time than Hillary Clinton was. And if he can keep that gain and keep that lead that he has, I do believe he's going to be able to win Wisconsin by a lean margin there. The next state, or actually the final district, however, I should say, is Nebraska's 2nd district. I do believe he'd win Nebraska's 2nd district by a lean margin. This is a very suburban district. If you want to look at Nebraska's 2nd, it encompasses the Omaha area and its suburbs and exurbs, which are becoming a lot more Democrat. And, Republicans really don't have much room to gain in these areas, and that's going to hurt them because Donald Trump only won it by 2 percentage points in 2016, which puts it on the cusp between tilt and lean. But at this point, I do believe Joe Biden would win by a lean margin. Getting into finally these tilt states. First, I do believe Texas would go by tilt margin to Donald Trump. The polling that we've seen so far actually shows Donald Trump ahead in the state of Texas by a tilt margin, but I do believe none of that polling data is necessarily accurate, so I'm going to give it to Donald Trump by a tilt margin by around 1 to 2 percentage points. I do believe that this state may go by a little bit more to Donald Trump when it's all said and done, but at least for now it's being quite an interesting state in terms of how much those suburban areas are trending towards the Democrats, and this is something that overall Republicans are going to have to worry about, but at least for now I think Donald Trump will win this state, but in the future it is going to be a big problem for them. As well as the state of Georgia, I do believe they're going to win by a tilt margin. Georgia is a state with those Atlanta suburbs, Gwinnett County, Cobb County, that are trending so much towards the Democrats. And, Republicans really don't have much room to gain in some of these rural areas. It's a similar story in Texas. Those rural areas, they don't have much room to gain. If they continue to, go this way in populism and things like that, they're not going to win much anymore in these suburban areas. And I do believe that they're going to have to change in that sense. But at least for this election, I do believe they'd narrowly win Georgia, but there'd still be a huge trend towards them. We're going to call them. And then the final state, which is a tilt margin state for the Democrats, is the state of North Carolina. North Carolina is a state that I do believe it's kind of hard to tell because the polls have been good for Democrats, but historically they've also been good for Democrats, even when the outcome hasn't ended up so good for them. And, at least for now, I'm putting it a tilt Democratic state, winning by around 1 to 2 percentage points, but this could easily change. Now, you do have an unpopular Republican senator, you have a popular Democratic governor that could help Joe Biden at the top of the ticket. You also have some of these suburban areas that are trending towards Democrats, but Republicans do have more areas to gain in these rural areas, and so that's kind of going to offset it a little bit. But the fact that Joe Biden is doing better in this national environment will help him in a state like North Carolina, even though you have trends going both directions. So overall, the map looks like 334 electoral votes for Joe Biden, 204 electoral votes for Donald Trump. Now, I wouldn't necessarily consider this a landslide, but it'd be pretty darn close to a landslide, and I do believe this would be a commanding win and lead for Joe Biden that he has right now, that I'm predicting he would get from this election result at this point. And thank you all for watching this video. Please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Also join the Discord that is linked down in the description. So again, guys, thank you all for watching, and I will see you guys later.